Welcome to Through the Back Loop. This is a knitting podcast. My name's Peggy Richards Patty. I'm your host, and I'd like to welcome. I've gotten some new followers lately, so thank you so much for subscribing and welcome. I hope this is a place where you feel inspiration and the community that the knitting world can bring. It's been about a month since I podcast. Oh my gosh. As Stephen Colbert says, who would have thought a month ago that the pandemic would be the second biggest story in our lives right now? The world has had another huge wave, and you just think, it's just getting worse and worse. But in reality, after thinking about it, I think that maybe the pandemic provided the canvas for us to think deeply and recognize what's going on in the world. And I know that when the pandemic first started, I texted with my neighbor across the street, and I actually don't know her really, really well, but she had given me some grapefruit. And I texted her and told her how much I appreciated it, and she had just left them on my doorstep. And I said, oh, it was such a treat in these crazy times we're in, just, making a reference to quarantine. And this was in the beginning of the quarantine, and like maybe week 1 or 2. And I said something about the crazy times we're in, and she texted back, yeah, this is a time for, what was it she called it? She said, this is a time for reflection and introspection. And at first I thought, oh, what an interesting thing to say, because at that point in time, I was just kind of in survival mode of how am I going to change my routine and my life while we're quarantined. But those words have kind of rang in my ears so many times since everything that's happened since then. And I think that maybe the pandemic did lay the groundwork. And again, that canvas, that blank canvas for us to think deeper and think about what's important. And, so many of us are realizing that we were just kind of needlessly busy and at times, and we don't need nearly as much stuff as we thought we needed, just crowding in our lives all the time. And then the murder of George Floyd happened, and since then has been a string of all these other senseless murders. And everyone, the whole world, it's so amazing that the whole world is in reflection and introspection. And, I have to admit that I've been blind. I've just, coming from being a white privileged person, I was living a life so unexamined. And so I'm very encouraged with all the education and reading and listening and things that are happening right now. And, the knitting community is so incredible, because this topic came up in the knitting community about a year ago. And, I've always said that knitters I've known forever that people that knit are really intelligent. When I worked in a yarn store, a lot of our customers were just these, incredible people, and knitting just happened to be a hobby. But all the way from scientists to, people, with their PhD, and just, all walks of life, just super intelligent people. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised that this topic came up in the knitting community before it did the general public. And a year ago, I was trying to make sense of it, and that's the first book that I read. I read White Fragility that's by Robin DiAngelo. And that was so eye-opening, because personally I thought, and she called it out in the book, and she said, white progressive women sometimes are the worst because they think I'm an ally, so I don't really have anything to work on. And I was like, oh my gosh. And, you know, my eyes were pretty opened up then, but now the world has opened up even more. And I just want to give so much credit to the people that are trying to educate all of us. And also, I have to give a shout out to the millennials, the generation of young people now that's taking this as a cause. And I heard someone the other day say, talking about this, and they were just saying that the millennials will become known as the compassionate generation. And that made me really happy because I have two children that are millennials. And when I was teaching, I taught elementary school, and the little guys that were little first and second graders back then are now in their late 20s and early 30s. And I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of them. So thank you, millennials, for teaching us and being a person that I was a child during the civil rights movement. And I remember just watching, and then as the decades have unfolded, I had this false sense that we were so much further along down the road than we were then. And it's been so discouraging to watch the last couple of, 2 or 3 years, watch that facade, shatter. And, I guess it was my facade. And, but I'm thankful for it now. And I think that we can do better and we're going to have a better world. So as horrible as it is, I have some hope that we can break down some of those structures of oppression that are so embedded in our country and in the way everything that we do. So there's an article by Dana Williams, and probably many of you have read it. It was in the Modern Daily Knitting. I get a daily email from them, and Dana Williams wrote an article. She's a Black woman that is a knitter, and I believe she's a professor. I'm not sure at which college right off the top of my head, but she wrote an article right after George Floyd's death and murder she says, would you demand justice for me if I were in that place, or would you just keep knitting? And I have to admit that in my life, as these atrocities have unfolded, that's how I've handled it. I just keep knitting. I want to do something, but I've been paralyzed. I don't know what to do. And, remaining quiet and complacency is part of the problem, and is the reason that these oppressive structures have stayed in our society. So I'm not just going to keep knitting. I'm going to do more. And I do have a sense of hope that we can do better and build a better world and a more equal world. So I'm grateful to the knitting profession for bringing it out into the light. We kind of had a little bit of a head start, but wow, I'm just so happy that it's a world concern, and that there's people of every walk of life that want to make it better and want to do better, and I want to be a part of that. So I'd like with that, I will share, and I'll put a little picture up, the book that I'm currently working on, and I have to hand it to Caddy Jack Knits once again for letting me know. I think I saw it on Instagram, and they might do a book study about it. I hope they do. It's called The Inner Work of Racial Justice by Rhonda McGee. and I'm listening to that in an audiobook right now. But looking forward to the the continued re-education around this, and I'm hoping that in 6 months everybody cares as much as they do right now. That's what I'm counting on. So with that being said, it's a different world, and hopefully one for the better. So I will move on to the knitting. The first thing that I wanted to share with you is what I'm wearing today. This is the Arica Shawl, and I finished this. It was a work in progress last episode. This is by Jane Richmond, and the Arica Shawl actually is supposed to have fringe on it, but I wanted this to be more summery and not hot, so I didn't put the fringe on. It does have the little V-neck, or not a V-neck, but it comes to a V in the front. And this was worked on a size 9, and I do not know the name of the yarn. It was some that I had from a long time ago, and the ball band had fallen off. So but it is a ribbon. It's a ribbon type yarn, and the pattern calls for like wool. So I was kind of taking a risk when I used this, and it is kind of big. I have it kind of draped in the back as well. Otherwise, when I move around in it a lot, it kind of starts falling down a little bit. So I'm not sure I'm going to keep it for myself. I have a good friend that I think she would enjoy it, and I think it would fit her better than it fits me. So this actually might become a gift. So that's my first finished object. And then another one that I was working, I'm trying to remember if I even had these cast on last episode, but I did finish a pair of the Heel Toe Doe Socks. This is a pattern by the Crazy Sock Lady, and she is doing, if you follow her on YouTube, she's doing a whole summer camp sock event, and has put up all these cool tutorials on different ways of making socks. Oh, I was trying to take it off of there so you could actually see this chevron pattern. It's not showing great, but there is a chevron pattern on the top, and that makes it interesting. And this is self-striping yarn, so that makes it even more interesting. But it goes pretty quick because the back is just stockinette stitch. So when you look down on your foot, you see the really pretty chevron pattern. And, the self-striping makes it look way more complicated than it is. But this was 64 stitches, and this is a twisted rib for the cuff. And I think it was, I'm trying to remember, 20 rows, I think. I'm not sure. And then you do the cool chevron pattern. It's a heel flap and gusset. And then her pattern has rounded toes. So I just followed that completely. And they're real comfortable. And I tried them on with kind of a black pair of shoes, and they didn't look quite as wild as they do just looking at them on the screen. So anyway, fun knit. Highly recommend it. And then like I was saying, the Crazy Sock Lady, she, look that up if you get the chance. I'll try to put some of her tutorials down, but no matter how you knit socks, it's really cute how she has it organized. Like she has in one camp or one bunkhouse, I don't know how she describes it, are the people that do magic loop, and then she has one for the double pointed needles, and I know there's one other. I think there's one that's everything else, like 2 circs. And anyway, she's just made it really cute. And, I've knit a lot of socks, but her tutorials, I always seem to learn another little something. So I do recommend you checking that out. Let's see. Oh, I didn't tell you what kind of yarn these socks are. I knit them on a size 1 needle, and this is the yarn. Les Lanes Biscotti, and I guess they're calling it Bis Sock. And I did get this yarn at Stitches. I got it at Stitches West in February. So glad to have those all finished. They're kind of just waiting until the fall when it's chilly. For those of you that are new, I do live in Southern California. I live in Oceanside, California, and we're enjoying some really beautiful weather. Usually here we experience May gray and June gloom, and that really hasn't happened this year. We've had mostly warm, sunny days. We may pay the price later on in the year with the fire danger, but for right now, it's just beautiful outside. So some years since I've lived here, I think I've lived here, how long have I lived here? I'm coming up on 4 years, and just about the time when it turns summer and beautiful everywhere else in the world, it turns kind of gray here, and so it's been kind of fun to actually have a sunny May and a sunny June. But like I said, I hope we don't pay the price later on for it. Anyway, okay, next project, I'm actually going to stop there. I'm going to do a wardrobe change and come back with my next finished object. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. This finished object is the Duchesne sweater, and it is by Leah Raven. And I'll stand up so you can see. It's got this lace panel in the front, which includes a drop stitch. This is the drop stitch right along in here. And this lace panel is it's a Shawl lace pattern, if you're familiar with that. And it is made out of linen. This is Kestrel. It's by Quince & Co. And I did knit this on a size 9 needle. I think it calls for either a 10 or a 10 and a half. And, but as usual, I had to go down. I almost always do on every pattern. But it's kind of a cropped little top, and I am wearing it with a linen dress right now. And since it's linen itself, it's not hot. And in the back, it's just stockinette stitch. So it is a quick knit. This is a worsted weight linen, and it has 3/4 length sleeves. I have not blocked this yet. So the sleeves are probably rolling a little bit more than they normally will, but I have a cardigan made out of this same yarn, and I made that probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I have worn it just about more than any other sweater that I've ever knit, because it's just so comfortable being made out of the linen. So there's so many great things about it. Number one, I love the pattern. I love the lace panel. It's great for summer because you can put something on to cover your arms, and especially as I age, I need that more than ever. And but it's not hot, so it's just a great piece. I think, I'm not sure when this came out, but I think it's been out for a few years, and I loved it from the very first time I saw it. So highly recommend this, and I think I'll get a lot of good out of it. So again, that's the Duchesne by Leah Raven. Let's see. Okay. Moving on to Works in Progress. It's another linen yarn in the summer. That's what I do. I knit linen. And this is, I'm working on is, let me see which way it goes. Yeah. This is called the Urban Chic shawl. It's not a shawl. I keep calling everything a shawl. It's like a scarf. And it's by Yumiko Alexander. and you might know her as Dow, I think is what her company is called, Doe. And there's her label. This is actually her yarn. Oh, it's silk and linen is what it is. This has a little bit of silk in it, but it's mostly linen. And it's just a really, this is the second time I've knit this. I knit it in an all cotton a few years back, and in the summer I wear it all the time because you can just wear like a plain t-shirt and then just throw this on and it looks, nicer. And so it's easy. It's got a lot of yarn overs. Every other row is yarn overs, and then about on the 23rd row and the 47th row or something like that, you do these cables. So when the whole thing is complete, you'll see more of the kind of the pattern that the cables make, but it just makes kind of this meandering looking pattern. But I love to knit things when I can, in the season that I can wear them in. So, as soon as I get this off the needles, I'll be able to wear it. And if I wear it even half as much as I did the other one that I made like this, then it's well worth it. I got this one I got this from Stitches SoCal. She was there, and this is, I have to say, not cheap yarn. The first one I made, I think I made for like $15, and this her yarn, I can't remember how much it was, but I think it's going to cost me like $50 for a scarf. So, but of course, I guess now that I see that it has silk in it, that explains that. But anyway, it's pretty simple, pretty mindless, TV watching, knitting. So that's my really only work in progress right now. So I'm going to have to be thinking about what's coming up. I have some ideas. But the thing that I just finished, so I guess that's moving us on to sewing, is I made a pair of pants, and these are called, I think in my last episode, I talked about this sweater. Let me grab it. I talked about this sweater that I had finished, and this sweater is the Silver Springs tee, and it's by Robin Knits. And I have worn this already a few times and just love it. It's super comfortable. The yarn is from Chelsea Yarns, and it's their Soleil yarn. So it's merino, fingering, single ply, but 10% linen. So I had finished that, and I was talking about making a pair of pants to go with them, and I had some linen that I showed last episode, but I also had this other twill, and I ended up making a pair of Landor pants, and this is kind of a cranberry colored twill, and I had made the Landor shorts before, so I knew that was kind of like my practice run. I made those a few years ago. So, and I'm a little bit fatter than I was then. So I went up a size, and I knew kind of how the pattern worked. So it was much easier this time around. But some of the fun things about it, of course, are the buttons. And if you've never put on jean buttons, it's not as hard as it looks. And it calls for lining in the pockets, which is fun. You're the only person that sees it, but it's fun that it's there. And then these really big pockets in the back and pockets in the front. I think the pockets in the front is what it makes it really cute. They almost look like Boy Cub Scout shorts or something. And then it has the loops, and the pattern itself does just a straight waistband, but I knew from making them before that I wanted to do more of a fitted waistband. So I'll try to link that below if you're interested. basically what you do is you take your actual waist measurement, which is this one, and then you take right above, wait a minute, your actual waist maybe was this lower measurement, and then a little bit higher. No, let me think about this. This was the actual waist at the top, and then I think you go an inch below, and so when this measurement I think is about an inch wider as you're starting to go out to the hips. So that kept the waistband very fitted, which is great because they fit me perfectly. I'm so happy with them. This size was much better fit through the crotch. It was a little bit longer than the shorts I made, so it's just really, really comfortable. I'll put up a picture of me wearing it. But anyway, it turns out that they look really good together, and I don't know, it was so rewarding making these that I think I'm going to do some more sewing this summer. I'm really looking forward to it. So Landor Pants by True Bias. And if you've not done any True Bias patterns, I totally recommend it. She just gives you step-by-step directions. She has a lot of sew-alongs that you can, even if they happened in the past, you can find them on the internet. And I mean, you can't go wrong. They just let you know every step of the way how to do everything. So that was super fun. And on the buttonholes, I was able to, on my machine, it's just great. You even put the button up on the screen and it lets you know the length. It programs in the length and the width of your buttonhole. And once you get one done, then it's there and you just, do the others, and the machine does it for you. So not as scary of buttonholes as it used to be back in the day when you were making each individual one yourself. So anyway, that was really, really fun, really rewarding, and I am looking forward to doing more sewing this summer. I kind of get away from sewing and because knitting really is my first love, but when you have something that turned out great and fits you perfectly, it's really gives you more, inspiration to keep going. So that is another finished object. And I'm working on, where's my little pattern? I'm working on a dress to actually go with this Duchesne. And the dress I'm working on is the Faro Dress by Greenlawn Studio. And I already I'm going to make this sleeveless. No, wait. Yeah, I'm making the sleeveless one because this has sleeves. I don't need more sleeves. And I already did the muslin for it. And there's some minor adjustments I'm going to make. But it pretty much, let me grab the muslin. It pretty much fit me perfectly. And so for those of you that don't know what a muslin is, it's when you do kind of a trial run in muslin. And that's what this kind of fabric is called. And I bought a whole bolt of it from Joann with a 60% off coupon. So, and I've had that same bolt, well, because I haven't been sewing that much, but I've had that bolt for at least a couple of years. But you just do kind of a practice run. So this is it. It has the pockets in the front. This is the center front, that line right there. And it has these pockets. And then in the back, it's got a cool line that, here's the center back, and then this meets up. So the length was good. The bodice, which usually is the part that really throws me for a loop sometimes because I'm kind of short and small up here. But I am going to do a little tweak. I have a safety pin right there, and I'm going to make an adjustment. So this would be the upper back on the right-hand side, and I have scoliosis. So one shoulder blade sticks out a little bit more than the other one, and that causes the center back line to not be straight. when I'm wearing things. So I'm going to put just right where this pin is. I'm gonna cut the tissue paper and spread that and put a little more fabric in there so that it'll be kind of an illusion that like I have a straight back when in reality I don't. But anyway, it's fun, and I was thinking about sewing. I think I like sewing for kind of the preciseness of it all, like in knitting, an extra stitch or, some little thing. Knitting's very, very forgiving, and sewing, it just rewards you for being precise. So I guess it's just a different part of your brain that you're using, and so that's kind of nice that it calls on different skills. But there's just this really great feeling when your whole outfit you've made by hand, like you have a knitted piece and then you have like a sewn piece as well. So I'm hoping in the next few days I have some time to work on this. And anyway, we'll see. Maybe next episode I will have that Faro dress. I'm going to show you the fabric that I'm going to use. Again, this is linen because, it's summer. And this piece I've had in my stash for a couple of years. In fact, even that twill, that cranberry fabric, I've had that. Well, I haven't gone anywhere. So everything that I'm doing, I pretty much either have ordered, or most of the fabric I just have in my stash, and it's so exciting that I'm finally doing something with it. I think this came from the fabric store in LA before it closed. I think I got a really good deal on it. But anyway, so this is going to be the Faro dress. And then the other fabric that I showed last time, this is linen again. I showed this last episode. I was planning on doing a pair of pants with this, and I had downloaded a pattern from, who is this from? Closet Case, and it was a PDF pattern, and this is just showing pants and shorts. I'm probably going to I want to do the pants, but I want to do the wide-legged pants, so this is not a good example to show you. But anyway, so I downloaded the PDF pattern, and I've made PDF patterns before and taped it all together and did all that, but I had a really terrible experience. I was having a really hard time getting the printer to be on the right settings. I had to contact them and ask for help, and they tried to help me, but still ended up, I finally did get it printed out, but some of the little notches weren't exactly lining up. And so I finally just had the Landor Pants pattern that I had used before, and I just thought it's just not worth going to all that trouble and possibly like either doing a muslin and finding out it doesn't work, or else cutting into my fabric and ruining my fabric. I just didn't feel like taking the chance. So anyway, I have now ordered that in tissue paper form so that, I don't know, and it really made me, I did that so that I could be sure that it was going to work. And it really made me not like PDF patterns anymore. I just don't feel like going through the brain damage. There's enough to think about with each little decision that you make in sewing, and I just don't need to be bothered with worrying about the pattern. So I don't think I'm going to do any more PDFs. I think that's where I landed on that. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. And let's see what else. I think that's all I really have for today. As far as future knitting plans, I do want to do a soldotna, and I have ordered, let me show you the yarn. So I've been wanting to do a Soldotna for however long it's been out and just haven't. And this yarn is from Barocco, and it's 57 cotton and 43 merino. And so I ordered these colors, and you know, it is color work and it is DK. So I do worry about it being too warm, even though it's mostly cotton. But I think I'm going to do it anyway because I don't really want to do long sleeves. I want it to be a summer sweater. So anyway, I'm just, what I'm really trying to say is that I'm just hoping that this DK will be okay since it is 57% cotton. But that's probably going to be my next cast on this with the Soldotna. And that's really all I have for today. I will put a few pictures in of just life around here. I may have to dig deep and just take some more pictures of my yard since I haven't been anywhere. But again, knitting is really kind of, I've heard a lot of people say that they can't knit right now because of where they feel mentally with everything that's happening. And I completely understand that. There's much more important things happening in the world for sure. But I encourage you to do the work and show up for this cause so that we can make the world a better place. And maybe in the long run, we should be, one of the silver linings of the pandemic was that we weren't distracted and we weren't numbed by the busyness of life, and that there can be some better outcomes for all. I'm going to link something that Cory Booker, his interview with Stephen Colbert, and there was a little quote, and I think that it's based off of something that Martin Luther King said about the appalling silence of good people. And I don't want to be in that category, and I don't think most people do. So let's do this. Let's make it better. And until the next time, take good care of yourselves, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.